All right, so we're gonna start with going over some of the upper digestive stuff on the torso. So on this side right here, we can see that this is going to be one of our salivary glands. This is the parotid salivary gland. It kind of sits sort of anterior and a little bit inferior to the ear, right on the cheek area. And then it's got a duct that's gonna come right here and it's gonna release on top of the molars on the inside of the mouth. If we turn our head this way, all right, then we can kind of look, you can see the lips over here, and this is gonna go into, we can see some of the teeth. These would be the incisors over here, and then we're gonna move into this area is the oral cavity. So it's a little hard. If I point at this part here is the tongue, but then right above the tongue, the space right above the tongue is gonna be the oral cavity. Now, if we look here, this bone here that's covered by mucosa, this is gonna be the hard palate, And then if we look right behind the hard palate here, once the bone ends, that's gonna be called the soft palate, and it's gonna end in the uvula. Let's see if I can, make it easier to see, right? So we've got, this is gonna be the hard palate, the soft palate, and it ends down here at the uvula. All right. Other things we can see on this side, we can see our salivary glands over here. And so this, right under the tongue, we have our sublingual salivary glands. And then down here, kind of under the mandible, is the submandibular salivary glands, right? So this is gonna be the mandible, and we have our lower incisors here and our upper incisors over here. If we continue downward, this is a little bit harder to see, we would be able to see the esophagus, but it's covered on the torso model. If we remove, let's keep going down. If we remove the heart, we can see this right here is going to be the esophagus. And that esophagus is going to be continuing from our pharynx, right? So we had our oropharynx, which if we look up here, the oropharynx would be sort of the part of the throat that's in that, at the back of the oral cavity. Then we can't see the laryngopharynx, but that would continue down, and the esophagus would be right after the laryngopharynx. And so now it's gonna go behind the trachea, so we can't see it, but now we can see it coming out of the trachea. This is gonna be the esophagus. And then finally, if we go down to the stomach, we can see the esophagus is gonna come through a hole in the diaphragm, right? Because it's gotta go from the thoracic cavity into the abdominal cavity, and then it's gonna go right here into our stomach. And so if I'll pull the stomach out, we can look at the stomach a little bit better. And so here is going to be where the esophagus enters the stomach. We can call this the lower esophageal sphincter, or sometimes it's called the cardiac sphincter. This is going to be the lesser curvature of the stomach, and this is going to be the greater curvature of the stomach. And then this part right here, so we have the cardia of the stomach. This is going to, this like area here that's kind of rounded at the top is the fundus of the stomach. This is going to be the body of the stomach. And then this little tail-like area is the pylorus of the stomach. And at the bottom, we have another sphincter. This is going to be called the pyloric sphincter, and it will eventually, that is going to attach it to the small intestines. If we look at the inside, we can see that we have these rugae or mucosal folds inside the stomach, much like we did inside the bladder, because the stomach can also expand to hold, lots of food and drink. So we have here, this is going to be that cardiac sphincter or lower esophageal sphincter, and this is going to be the pyloric sphincter. There are 3 layers of smooth muscle in the stomach, but you can't really see them very well in this model.